Chapter 11 Classic Dual Thread Operation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mu Zhian held the teacup, gently caressing Bai Ruoxi's cool, smooth hand. Lost in thought, beside him, Bai Ruoxi bit her lip. Gone was the arrogance she'd displayed just days ago. She didn't pull her hand away, stealing only glances at him, her body slowly relaxing. After a long silence, Bai Ruoxi looked up slightly, her voice soft. Master Mu, have you made a decision about the Bai family's situation? Enjoying the feel of her delicate hand, Mu Zhian seemed to snap out of a trance. He paused, then smiled. I'm still considering it. Surprisingly, Bai Ruoxi simply replied, okay, not pushing the issue as she had before. Mu Zhian noticed her unusual behavior and studied her more closely. She sat back, her chest gently resting against the table, twirling a teacup between her fingers, lips slightly pursed. 2 strands of hair framed her delicate features, accentuating her beauty, but there was a hint of sadness he hadn't seen before, a shadow in her eyes. Mu Zhian reached out and gently brushed the hair from her forehead, a smile on his face. Miss Bai, what's bothering you? Bai Ruoxi glanced at him, but remained silent. Oh, is it about the Bai family? He chuckled, realizing how obvious it was. That seemed to be her biggest worry now. Bai Ruoxi shook her head softly, gently setting down the teacup. While my concerns are related to the Bai family, I'm afraid they're not what you think, Master Mu. She thought of the past 2 days, her mother's constant probing. Every night, the beautiful woman would visit, lamenting the Bai family's decline and subtly urging her to press Mu Zhian for a decision. Her mother's persistent nagging was why she'd come to see him again this morning, and that was why she was so troubled now. Mu Zhian studied her carefully. If you don't want to talk about what's bothering you, that's fine. Tell me when you're ready. Bai Ruoxi raised her head and looked at him, her voice soft. Master Mu, is there really no way you can help the Bai family? I've already mentioned what I'd need in return, Mu Zhian replied, smiling. The Tong Mai pill. Bai Ruoxi repeated, lowering her gaze, her eyes clouding over. She looked up suddenly, whispering, isn't there something else I could? Mu Zhian gently placed his fingers on her lips. Her eyes widened slightly, and he smiled, shaking his head. Miss Ruoxi, you're a person, not something to be used as a bargaining chip. If Wei Men grew, his maid who knew him so well, were here, she'd probably roll her eyes, thinking, he just wants the Tong Mai pills and Bai Ruoxi for free. Why is he being so dramatic, star? But Bai Ruoxi was clearly taken aback. She thought of her mother's words over the last few days, then Mu Zhian's now. She felt a lump forming in her throat, and her eyes seemed to mist over. One was a playboy who she used to think was awful, the other was her own mother, yet their words couldn't be more different. He'd only expressed interest in her. Mu Zhian saw her as a person, not an object to trade. She'd been wrong about him. Bai Ruoxi sighed quietly, lowering her head. Just a couple of weeks ago, she'd been disgusted by Mu Zhian's pursuit. His fawning always rubbed her the wrong way, but now, she didn't find Mu Zhian so repulsive. She stole a complicated glance at him, she wasn't sure why. Was it because she needed the Mu family's help, or had her perception of him really changed? Mu Zhian, oblivious to her thoughts, glanced out the window, then turned back to her. Miss Bai, could you ask the waiter to refill the tea? I think I'd like a different kind. Bai Ruoxi seemed to snap out of her daze. Sure, she replied demurely, standing and leaving the room. Silence returned. Mu Zhian began making tea, minding his own business. He picked up a 3rd cup, poured tea, and placed it on the table. Why don't you come out and have a cup? He said, smiling. You must have something important to say. What is it? After a moment of silence, the curtain was drawn back by a man in black. His eyes swept across the room, settling on Mu Zhian. He walked in and sat opposite him, as Mu Zhian gestured. Young Master Mu is quite the connoisseur. From sleeping with courtesans to charming the most beautiful woman in Tianxian City, men are envious. The man's tone was light, a mixture of admiration and sarcasm. Double-threaded operation. Mu Zhian put down the teacup calmly. Get to the point. Bai Ruoxi will be back soon. The black-robed man nodded. In 2 days, young Master Mu, lead you to Dragon Head Forest. I'll take care of the rest, and Miss Bai will be completely yours. Dragon Head Forest was on the west side of Tianxian City, a few dozen miles out. The forest was said to resemble a dragon's head from above. It was large, filled with monsters, and a perfect, isolated place to attack you. Master Mu, do we have an agreement? The man pressed, I reeled this girl and myself, why is he acting like he deserves credit? Mu Zhian snapped back to reality, smiling and nodding. Okay, I'll get you to Dragon Head Forest within the next 2 days. The black-robed man looked pleased. Young Master Mu is a smart man. I won't keep you. He turned into a puff of black smoke and vanished. Mu Zhian casually picked up his teacup, took a sip, and curled his lips. Did that guy really think he was an idiot? Take you to Dragon Head Forest and he'd handle the rest. Easy for him to say, but what if he double-crossed him? The day you disappeared, the gossip would spread like wildfire. Mu Zhian lured you to Dragon Head Forest and then ran off. The news that Yi, a genius, vanished because of Mu Zhian would undoubtedly anger the Yi family. Even though the Yi family wasn't what it used to be, the public would side with them, and even the Mu family would take a hit. While Mu Zhian was thinking, Bai Ruoshi returned, carrying a teapot. She walked in slowly and sat next to him. She glanced around, sensing something was off. Was someone here? She whispered. She was in the Qi training realm. One of the reasons she'd let Mu Zhian hold her hand was to help him. Mu Zhian grunted, then changed the subject. I'm thirsty. Could you pour me some tea first? That he wasn't sure if the black-robed man was really gone, so it wasn't a good time to talk business. Bai Ruoshi's eyes flickered, and she glanced at him. They locked eyes, and Bai Ruoshi seemed to understand. She casually glanced at the door, then replied softly, sure. So, whoever was eavesdropping might still be around. Mu Zhian watched her graceful movements as she made tea, and he smiled. That black-robed man was getting a little too big for his britches. What does the girl he reeled in have to do with him? He looked so superior. Who did he think he was? As Mu Zhian thought this, Bai Ruoshi finished making tea and reached to pour it. He suddenly placed his hand gently over hers. Bai Ruoshi looked up, surprised. He smiled at her. I'm a little tired. Help me pour a cup. She paused, then nodded softly. Okay. Chapter 12, Evildoers will be punished by their own evildoers, 1/2. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Mu Zhian finished his tea in the tea room, chatted briefly with Bai Ruoshi, and then they left together. As they walked down a quiet street in Tianxian City, Bai Ruoshi glanced around and asked, Master Mu, if I may be so bold, who was eavesdropping on our conversation back there? The Gongsun family, or the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce? She pressed. Given the Mu family's influence in Tianxian City, few would dare to eavesdrop on conversations involving Mu Zhian. The Chenxi Chamber of Commerce and the Gongsun family were the only likely suspects. She figured those two families were worried the Mu family might intervene to help the Bai family, since she'd been so close to them lately. She also recalled that the Gongsun family had leaked information a couple of days ago, hoping Yi would stir up trouble. Mu Zhian shook his head. It wasn't the Gongsun family, nor the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce. I think it was someone from outside Tianxian City. I don't know who it was. Bai Ruoshi frowned slightly. In that case, why would they want to listen in on our conversation? Mu Zhian smiled. Maybe they wanted to see if I was sweet on you. Bai Ruoshi looked puzzled. If you were sweet on me? What difference would that make? Whether or not Mu Zhian liked her shouldn't matter to anyone else. Why would someone eavesdrop to find that out? She gave Mu Zhian a searching look. Ever since she met him in the carriage, she felt like he was shrouded in a fog, making him hard to read. She wondered what he thought of her, if he still liked her the way he used to. The more she thought about it, the more she wanted to know. But Mu Zhian always kept his distance. They'd had a little intimate moment in the tea room, but it wasn't enough for her to figure him out. It makes a big difference, he said. Mu Zhian strolled along the quiet street. The more smitten I am with you, the easier it is for someone to take advantage of me. Bai Ruoshi tilted her head, her eyes full of questions. Mu Zhian chuckled and shook his head. Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you. Instead, we need to figure out how to reach Gongsun Zan and see if we can get something out of him. Miss Bai has a lot of connections in Tianxian City. Do you know what Gongsun Zan is into? Mu Zhian asked. Bai Ruoshi glanced at him. Women. If you want to get in touch with Gongsun Zan, just offer him the most popular girl from the pleasure district. Mu Zhian shook his head. That's not my scene. Even the elegant Bai Ruoshi couldn't help but roll her eyes. Everyone in Tianxian City knew Mu Zhian used to be a regular at the pleasure district. Did he think she was an idiot? Bai Ruoshi changed her tune. Come to think of it, Mu Zhian hadn't been to the pleasure district or any similar places in a while. She started to say something, but a young man's voice suddenly called out from down the street, Ruoshi, what are you doing here? Bai Ruoshi's face darkened. Mu Zhian turned to see a handsome young man walking toward them. It was Yi Yu. Bai Ruoshi frowned, grabbed Mu Zhian's wrist, and turned to leave. Master Mu, let's go another way. But Yi Yu was already upon them. Ruoshi, wait. Bai Ruoshi reluctantly turned to face him. Mr. Yi, what is it? Yi Yu looked surprised, then smiled. The clan competition ended today, and I was just taking a walk. I didn't expect to run into you. Bai Ruoshi simply nodded. If that's all, we'll be on our way. Wait. Seeing Bai Ruoshi turn away, Yi Yu panicked and reached out to grab her shoulders. Ruoshi, I won the clan competition today. Trust me, give me a few more months, and I'll definitely become someone who can actually help you. Bai Ruoshi frowned, immediately pulled away from his grasp, and said coldly, congratulations, but it has nothing to do with me. Mr. Yi, please respect yourself. Her sharp tone was clearly indifferent, just like how she first treated Mu Zhian, but Yi Yu didn't seem to notice anything was wrong. Ruoshi, Mu Zhian can help you, and so can I. Just believe me. Before he could continue, Mu Zhian chimed in, Master Yi, it's pointless to chase after someone like this. You should go find your true love. He ignored Yi Yu, turned, and left with Bai Ruoshi. Yi Yu watched Bai Ruoshi's slender back as she followed Mu Zhian, quietly clenching his fists. It was Mu Zhian again, just like the other day. He must have threatened Ruoshi, otherwise why would they be together? Mu Zhian, I challenge you. Yi Yu suddenly shouted. Mu Zhian paused, glanced sideways, saw the anger in Yi Yu's eyes, and smiled. Why should I compete with you? I have important things to do and don't have the time. Are you scared? Yi Yu challenged. Mu Zhian smiled and nodded. Yep, I'm scared. Yi Yu was stunned, not expecting Mu Zhian to be so calm. Mu Zhian continued, also, Miss Bai doesn't dislike you because you're not strong enough. Then why? Yi Yu asked without thinking. Mu Zhian grinned. I'm not going to tell you. Being a simp never pays off, no matter the world. Just like Mu Zhian in the past, if he hadn't remembered his previous life and kept his cool, Bai Ruoshi wouldn't have a good impression of him now and might still hate him as much as she hated Yi Yu. Being a simp isn't just about blindly agreeing with a girl when chasing her. It means lowering yourself in the chase, creating an unequal relationship where the woman doesn't respect you, yet you keep trying, just like Yi Yu. So what if his talent returned, and he won the Yi family competition? Emotionally, he was a complete failure. Properly showing interest is harmless, though. As they walked, Mu Zhian glanced back. Yi Yu was still following them, keeping his distance. He was convinced that Bai Ruoshi had been threatened by Mu Zhian. As long as he rescued her when she was in danger, she would understand. Yi Yu is still following us, Mu Zhian said softly. Bai Ruoshi frowned. I'll take care of it. I'm sorry for the trouble. She started to turn back to confront Yi Yu, but Mu Zhian gently stopped her, smiling and shaking his head. It's fine, don't worry about him. If Bai Ruoshi went back to Yi Yu now, she might scold him at first, but then she would get worn down and give him a chance to save the Bai family. As the chosen one, with Yi Yu's luck, he might actually be able to save them. The best thing was to avoid contact between the two. Bai Ruoshi nodded silently and ignored Yi Yu. Soon, they noticed several attendants guarding the door of a mansion up ahead, looking menacing. What's going on? Bai Ruoxi wondered. It must be Gongsun Zan leading a house raid, Mu Zhian explained. Bai Ruoxi understood. But why clear everyone out? She asked. Maybe they're afraid that some family members will try something desperate, Mu Zhian guessed. Usually, house raids didn't require clearing the area. It was unusual for Gongsun Zan to deliberately evacuate nearby people before a raid. We can wait for him to come out and test him, Mu Zhian said. Bai Ruoxi nodded. Gongsun Zan was an ignorant, evil young man who wasn't too bright. It shouldn't be hard to get something out of him. Nearby, Yi Yu realized that the person in the mansion was Gongsun Zan, who was leading the raid. His eyes flickered, and he stepped forward. Ruoxi, the Gongsun family hates the Bai family right now. Shouldn't we leave? If Gongsun Zan sees you, there could be trouble. Bai Ruoxi replied coldly, I have my own plans. I don't need your concern. She was so cold that she seemed to put people off, which was completely different from when she was talking to Mu Zhian. Yi Yu started to say something, but Mu Zhian cut him off. Master Yi seems worried about us contacting Gongsun Zan. Why? Yi Yu was taken aback. His voice rose. I'm not afraid. Why would I be? I'm just worried about Ruoxi's safety. Don't worry, I'll protect her, Mu Zhian said. Yi Yu frowned. Suddenly, a woman's shrill cry came from the mansion, full of despair, clear enough for Mu Zhian and the others to hear. Why would a house raid sound like that? Mu Zhian frowned. Yi Yu's eyes flashed. He glanced at Mu Zhian. House raids usually don't sound like that, but Gongsun Zan's raids aren't always simple. After hearing Yi Yu's words and thinking about the screams, Mu Zhian's expression changed, and he strode toward the mansion. The attendant blocked the door with a knife. Young Master Gongsun is conducting a house raid. No one is allowed near the area. Bai Ruoxi raised her eyebrows. Don't you even recognize the Mu family's eldest young master? The attendants looked at Mu Zhian. After recognizing him, they sheathed their swords and backed away. Bai Ruoxi looked at Mu Zhian with a complex expression. The Bai family was already in danger, and offending the Gongsun family wasn't wise, but, she looked at Mu Zhian, who was already some distance away, and followed him as if she had made up her mind. Yi Yu struggled, clenching his fists, but he stayed put. With his current strength, he couldn't do anything even if he followed them in, and Gongsun Zan would hold a grudge. He had to be patient until he reached the realm of refining the spirit. He couldn't save anyone now. Yi Yu's fist loosened. He guarded the door, looking into the mansion. If Bai Ruoxi was in danger, he could save her and make her understand his feelings. He looked at Mu Zhian and felt jealous. If he was in the Mu family, he wouldn't have so many concerns. He could go in now and stop Gongsun Zan. However, Gongsun Zan was different from the other Gongsun family members. He wouldn't show mercy even if Mu Zhian was the eldest son of the Mu family. It would be best if Mu Zhian and Gongsun Zan could fight and hurt each other. Mu Zhian kicked the door open, revealing a spacious courtyard. The flowers were trampled, and the maids were a mess. Several of Gongsun Zan's men were looking at the maids with excitement, startled by the sudden entrance. One of them, already on edge, turned around. This is a Gongsun family raid. Who's causing trouble? He saw Mu Zhian with a cold expression. Master Mu, what are you doing here? Where is Gongsun Zan? Bai Ruoxi asked coldly. The servant looked away and didn't speak. Bai Ruoxi frowned. Mu Zhian gently patted the servant's shoulder. Where is Gongsun Zan? The servant raised his head. Master Mu, I can't tell you. Master Gongsun will kill me when I go back. If you tell me, maybe only you will die. If you don't, your whole family will, Mu Zhian said calmly. The servant turned pale. He believed Mu Zhian. With the power of the Mu family, it was easy to wipe out an ordinary family. He's in the third room after entering the yard. The servant said. Mu Zhian kicked the servant away. Keep them all in line. Bai Ruoxi nodded, looked at the crying maids, and the servants who seemed to understand they had made a mistake. She felt disgusted. The big fish eats the small fish, who eat the shrimp. This was disgusting. Mu Zhian found the third room and heard a girl crying inside. he kicked the door open. The girl was in tears, looking at Gongsun Zan in horror. When Mu Zhian kicked the door open, she saw a glimmer of hope and looked at him with pleading eyes. Gongsun Zan looked surprised, then smiled. "It's Master Mu. What brings you here?" Before Mu Zhian could speak, Gongsun Zan pointed at the helpless girl. "So that's it. Then, Master Mu, would you like to go first?" "Family members aren't affected by the property confiscation," Mu Zhian said. Gongsun Zan sarcastically smiled. "Forget it, Master Mu. Everyone in Tianxian City knows you've done a lot of bad things. Don't pretend to be a good person. We're all the same." He paused. "Bad people shouldn't bother each other, right?" "Let her go," Mu Zhian said. Gongsun Zan stared at Mu Zhian, then, as if suppressing his emotions, he nodded. "Okay, let her go, right?" With a hint of trembling in his voice, Gongsun Zan flicked his finger, cutting the rope. The girl fell, crying. Mu Zhian quietly stared at Gongsun Zan. "You asked me to let her go." "I just listened," Gongsun Zan said, spreading his hands, then he shook his head. "Master Mu, I respect you as the eldest master of the Mu family, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. The Mu family is strong, but they can't do whatever they want. The court ordered the Gongsun family to confiscate their property. If you stop me, will you be responsible? When Gongsun Zan confiscates their property, he oppresses women and steals a lot of treasures. Is that also part of the confiscation?" Mu Zhian asked. "If the court knows about this, will it continue to support the Gongsun family? We'll talk about that later." Gongsun Zan smiled. "But first, I want to enjoy the beauty." He crouched in front of the girl, stroking her face. The girl looked at Mu Zhian with pleading eyes. Gongsun Zan noticed, but just smiled. He had done this before and never had problems. In the end, he would just appease them with money. As for reporting to the higher-ups, that depended on whether the Gongsun family agreed. Clang, Mu Zhian drew his sword, pointing it at Gongsun Zan's head. "You dare to do it." Gongsun Zan smiled and reached for the girl's clothes. The girl closed her eyes, accepting her fate, but suddenly, Gongsun Zan felt a pain in his chest. His eyes widened as he looked down. Mu Zhian's sword had pierced his heart. Gongsun Zan stared at Mu Zhian. "If you kill me, the Gongsun family will not let you get away with this." The voice stopped. Gongsun Zan couldn't believe that Mu Zhian dared to attack him. Behind him, a servant shouted, "Get a doctor." Bang. Bai Ruoshi hit the servant's neck from behind, and he fell to the ground. She glanced at the trembling girl, then at Gongsun Zan. After a moment, she handed the girl a handkerchief. "This has disrupted your original plan." The original plan was to contact Gongsun Zan and get something out of him. Now, Gongsun Zan was dead. Though satisfying, it would cause trouble for the Mu family. Plans are dead. Mu Zhian wiped the blood from his forehead, looked at the girl, and said softly, "But people are alive." Chapter 13 Plan. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Soon after Mu Zhian left, Bai Ruoshi comforted the girl and followed him out. "What's the plan now?" she asked softly, looking at Mu Zhian. Killing Gongsun Zan might feel good in the moment, but it would stir up a hornet's nest. The Mu family could handle it, but it would still sting. Mu Zhian seemed lost in thought. Finally, he snapped out of it and said, "Plan? For what?" Bai Ruoshi hesitated. "About Gongsun Zan." "What about him?" Mu Zhian asked. Bai Ruoshi paused, then, catching on, said, "You're thinking of sneaking out?" She shook her head. "Can't do that. Gongsun's people saw you come in. If you leave now, they'll know." Mu Zhian was silent, walking along the path in the courtyard. "Regrets?" Bai Ruoshi asked suddenly. Mu Zhian shook his head gently. "I'd do it again." "You're a good man, Mu," Bai Ruoshi said softly. Someone of his status didn't need to get involved. No one in Tianxian City could touch him, yet he did, making trouble for himself for no thanks. "I'm not good, I just don't want to be bad." Mu Zhian smiled. "I can't stand by when I see wrong being done. Bai Ruoshi opened her mouth slightly, wanting to say he had a bad reputation himself. Why bother? But remembering what he'd done the last few days, she bit back the words. If he really wanted to be bad, he could have made a move in the carriage, even if she might have refused, because when she asked him, she hadn't fully decided, can people really change overnight? If someone had asked Bai Ruoshi that before, she wouldn't have known what to say, but now, she could confidently nod. Yes, that infamous playboy had actually changed. Mu Zhian, unaware of her thoughts, asked, aren't you worried Gongsun's people will try to bolt now that you're here? Bai Ruoshi shook her head. Mengru's at the gate. No one's going anywhere. Mu Zhian thought. That explained it. So, what's the play with Gongsun Zan? Bai Ruoshi couldn't help but ask. They'd planned to get something on him, but now he was dead and Mu Zhian had just made a mess. If they didn't handle this right, even the Mu family would be in for a headache. Business as usual, Mu Zhian said. Cremation, water burial, dog food, whatever. Bai Ruoshi frowned. He was kidding. Didn't he realize the hornets were already buzzing? As if reading her mind, Mu Zhian smiled. Actually, Gongsun Zan's more useful now than he ever was alive. Bai Ruoshi stared. He's dead. You're missing the big picture. Mu Zhian turned to face the beauty behind him, held her gaze, and smiled. Sometimes, the dead are more useful than the living. Bai Ruoshi was stunned. Gongsun Zan is dead, but he's more useful alive. She was about to ask him to explain, but they'd unknowingly reached the front of the courtyard. Wei Mengru had gathered the servants in an open space, where they were looking at Mu Zhian like he was the devil. They'd overheard the confrontation between Gongsun Zan and Mu Zhian. After that, nothing. And the colleague sent with them? Nowhere to be seen. Mu Zhian must have attacked Gongsun Zan. Mengru, Mu Zhian said to Wei Mengru. Wei Mengru nodded, pointed to the 7 or 8 servants, and said, what should we do with these? A chill went through the servants. Some even knelt and begged, Master Mu, have mercy. We were just following orders. Forcing yourself on the maids, that was an order too. Mu Zhian asked sarcastically. The servant went silent. Don't worry. Someone else will judge you, not me. Mu Zhian scanned the servants coldly. I won't kill you either, but... He paused. What did you see in the house? Nothing. They answered almost as one. Nope. Mu Zhian shook his head. You saw something. The servants looked up, fear in their eyes. He meant he was going to kill them after all. You saw Gongsun Zan abusing the women, and Mu Zhian stood up to him and stopped him. Mu Zhian continued. Bai Ruoshi shot him a look that didn't explain Gongsun Zan's murder, and people saw them on the street. The Gongsuns would find out. Mu Zhian continued. After that, Mu Zhian left, and Gongsun Zan was killed by a mysterious figure in black after the search. Got it, black-robed figure. The servants exchanged glances, uncertainty in their eyes, but they quickly nodded in agreement. Mu Zhian turned to Wei Mengru. The rest is up to you. Wei Mengru hummed softly. Her soul-refining powers gave her the ability to influence memories, or, more accurately, to plant suggestions. Of course, it required cooperation. Right now, these servants had no choice. They didn't care about Gongsun Zan, they just wanted to live. Bai Ruoshi remained worried. She approached Mu Zhian and whispered, the patriarch might not buy it. After all, no one would believe in a black-robed figure without seeing him, least of all the shrewd Gongsun patriarch. He won't believe it completely. Mu Zhian smiled. But if he saw a black-robed figure with his own eyes, wouldn't he? Bai Ruoshi was stunned. A mysterious master in the refining god realm sneaked into Tianxian city unnoticed. That's a big threat. Everyone should be united, right? Mu Zhian looked at Bai Ruoshi's beautiful profile and smiled. Don't you think, Miss Bai? Chapter 14 We must unite against the outside world. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. United against the outside world. Bai Ruoshi was taken aback by Mu Zhian's words. Then a spark ignited in her beautiful eyes. If they could band together to deal with the black-robed man, the Bai family could at least catch their breath for a while. It was only a stopgap, but right now, that's exactly what they needed. Thinking this, Bai Ruoshi looked at Mu Zhian, a complicated expression in her eyes. He decided to help them out, even though she hadn't offered him anything in return. Thank you, Bai Ruoshi said, her tone reserved but genuinely grateful. A little later, Wei Mengru approached Mu Zhian, having finished giving some instructions to the servants and maids in the yard. Thanks for your hard work, Sister Mengru, Mu Zhian said with a smile. Wei Mengru replied coolly, just try not to make more work for me. Her eyes softened a bit as she added, but you handled this well. She'd written Mu Zhian off as a lost cause, obsessed with beauty, but he'd really turned a corner lately. Mu Zhian shook his head. Anyone would have done the same. Don't be so modest, Master Mu. Sure, if it was just some random thug harassing a woman, maybe someone would step in, Bai Ruoshi interjected softly, but this was Gongsun Zan. The Gongsun family were major players in Tianxian City. Few would risk crossing them, even to stop something like that. The weak were afraid of the consequences, and the strong didn't want to make enemies over something small. Only Mu Zhian would have been brave enough to do what he did. What's the plan now? Wei Mengru asked Mu Zhian gently. The same as before. Mu Zhian looked up at Wei Mengru, smiled, and said, we let things play out for now. Yi Yu was pacing anxiously outside the mansion. He'd been waiting there, wanting to barge in but afraid of causing a scene. His talent had returned, but he was still just in the refining essence realm. He could hold his own against someone in the chi refining realm, but he didn't want to show his hand too soon. That's why he'd been waiting at the door, hoping his childhood sweetheart would come out, but nearly half an hour had passed and his patience was wearing thin. He was starting to think about forcing his way past the guards. Just then, the mansion doors swung open. Yi Yu's eyes lit up. Bai Ruoshi emerged, wearing a flowing white dress, looking like a goddess. Her snow-white skin glowed in the sunlight. Her cascade of black hair framed her face, simply held back by a jade hairpin. Her beautiful face was slightly cool, hinting at classical beauty. Yi Yu was mesmerized. She was undeniably the most beautiful woman in Tianxian City. Her face was flawless, captivating at first glance. No wonder Mu Zhian had been so smitten. Ruoshi, what's going on in there? Yi Yu asked immediately. Bai Ruoshi glanced at him and said softly, something came up. You should head home. What about you? Yi Yu asked instinctively. I'm going back to the Bai family first, Bai Ruoshi replied. She needed to explain things to her mother, sticking to the story Mu Zhian had outlined. Gongsun Zan wasn't killed by Mu Zhian, but by a mysterious figure in black robes. That was the new narrative. Hearing this, Yi Yu felt a little relieved. As long as she wasn't with Mu Zhian, he could live with it. If I was in the Mu family, I would have been the one to take action today, Yi Yu said, a hint of regret in his voice. Bai Ruoshi looked at Yi Yu, saying nothing. If Yi Yu was in Mu Zhian's position, he probably wouldn't have the guts to cross Gongsun Zan, because there was nothing to gain from it. Mu Zhian did it because he valued relationships more than personal gain. It might seem irrational or impulsive, but that's what made him appealing. Let me walk you home, Ruoshi. Seeing Bai Ruoshi about to leave, Yi Yu hurried forward. No, I just want to be alone right now, Bai Ruoshi said coolly. Yi Yu was disappointed. All right then. Be careful on the way back. Bai Ruoshi simply hummed in acknowledgement and continued to wait outside the mansion. Yi Yu glanced at Bai Ruoshi, his mouth slightly open, as if he wanted to say something, but seeing her cold demeanor, he finally sighed and left. Not long after Yi Yu left, Bai Ruoshi was still gazing at the mansion gates. Soon, Mu Zhian walked out, and she stepped forward, saying, Master Mu, are you heading back? Mu Zhian nodded. Since you're going that way, would you mind keeping me company for a bit? Mu Zhian glanced at Bai Ruoshi. Standing on the steps, he had a clear view down her dress, revealing a bit more than usual. Honestly, Gongsun Zan had soured his mood, and he wasn't in the mood to chat with anyone, but what could he do? She was too alluring. Mu Zhian was captivated. After a moment, he nodded and smiled. Sure. Some temptations are just too hard to resist. Chapter 15. The stage is set. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. They left the quiet street, and Mu Zhian couldn't help but feel a little something, catching a faint whiff of perfume beside him. Things had changed so much in just a few days, especially with Bai Ruoxi. If his memory had returned any later, he would have been totally humiliated by Yiyu. Let's face it, the old him would have rolled over and played dead the second Bai Ruoxi asked for help, but nobody wins that way. If he hadn't refused her in the carriage, things wouldn't be what they are. Today, Yiyu just didn't get it, which is why Bai Ruoxi hated him so much. Master Mu, are you going to see Gongsun Xiong next? Bai Ruoxi asked softly. Gongsun Xiong was the head of the Gongsun family, one of the two big players trying to take down the Bai family. Unlike the Dawn Chamber of Commerce, which was an outside force, the Gongsun family and the Mu family were both local powerhouses in Tianxian City. Rumor had it, the Gongsun family had more than one cultivator in the refining spirit realm. Mu Zhian snapped back to reality, turned, and met Bai Ruoxi's gaze. He shook his head, smiling. Relax, let the rumors swirl a little longer. Bai Ruoxi tilted her head, a hint of doubt in her eyes. She didn't get what he meant. Logically, Mu Zhian should be spreading the word about the black-robed guy killing Gongsun Zan ASAP, but he didn't seem to be doing that. It confused her. Mu Zhian didn't explain, just changed the subject. Thanks for the handkerchief. I'll have the servants wash it and get it back to you sometime. He paused. Maybe I'll visit the Bai family again then. Though your mother probably won't exactly roll out the red carpet. If your mother knew you came to the Bai family, she'd be ecstatic. Bai Ruoxi walked on, eyes downcast, silent. Her mother wasn't a fan of Yiyu, but she'd always envied Mu Zhian, the rich bachelor. When Mu Zhian was chasing Bai Ruoxi, Bai Yuanfeng was practically pushing her into his arms. Master Mu, you're joking. The Bai family's always open to you, Bai Ruoxi said softly. My mother's been wanting to see you too. Wanting to see me? Mu Zhian was surprised for a second, then smiled like he understood. Sounds like you're under a lot of pressure. Judging by her tone and the slight gloom, it wasn't hard to guess she'd been pushed to ask for his help. Think about it, for a girl used to being treated like a princess, asking a playboy for a favor would be a huge deal, but that wasn't his problem. All he needed to do was change Bai Ruoxi's opinion of him and deal with the black-robed man's situation. Mu Zhian reached out, gently took her slightly cold, soft hand, and took the umbrella from her. I'll find time to visit and return the handkerchief. And I think you'll find things in Tianxian City pretty interesting these next few days. Bai Ruoxi tilted her head, a strand of hair falling across her forehead. She looked at his gentle smile, and for some reason, she believed him. Tianxian City was about to get wild. Mu Zhian killed Gongsun Zan. Sure enough, the news exploded across Tianxian City that evening. People were going nuts. It was a total bombshell. Gongsun Zan was known as a shallow, womanizing jerk. Mu Zhian was also a womanizer, so, one womanizer killed another. And Mu Zhian was playing the hero? That night, everyone was talking about it. Okay, Mu Zhian likes women, but he usually sticks to the pleasure houses or single women. It's not like Gongsun Zan. I can see him stepping in to stop Gongsun Zan from bullying someone. I'd do the same. Those were the Mu Zhian believers. Of course, some people weren't buying it. I don't believe it. Maybe Mu Zhian saw Gongsun Zan hassling some girl, and Mu Zhian wanted her too. They got into a fight, and Gongsun Zan just happened to get killed. Besides, who even leaked this story? With the Mu family's power in Tianxian City, it's easy to fake news. And then there were the other theories, like Mu Zhian and Gongsun Zan. They're both dirtbags. Good riddance to both of them. Or the rationalists who said things like, let's wait for all the facts before jumping to conclusions. But those people were rare. While all this was going on, back at the Mu mansion, Mu Zhian was lounging in a chair, sipping tea. What time is it? He asked the maid beside him. It's your hour, master, she replied respectfully, but her eyes were full of curiosity. The Mu family servants had heard the rumors, too, and wondered if it was true. You hour. About time. Mu Zhian thought for a moment, then set down his teacup. Time to pay the Gongsun clan leader a visit. Chapter 16 The Man in Black Robe, Designated Scapegoat. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Gongsun family. In the main hall, Gongsun Xiong relaxed with a cup of tea and a shoulder massage from the beautiful woman behind him. Judging by his expression, he was completely oblivious to the commotion brewing outside. The Gongsun, Mu, and by families were the big three in Tianxian City, with the Mu family generally calling the shots. The Chenxi Chamber of Commerce had moved in a few years back and had steadily been gaining ground, now rivaling the big three. Gongsun Xiong had 6 sons. The eldest helped him run the family business. The second was, well, let's just say he was chasing someone else's son and leave it at that. The third, Gongsun Zan, was a lout with a weakness for pretty faces. The fourth and fifth were off gallivanting around the world. And the sixth was still too young to amount to much. Of all his sons, Gongsun Xiong disliked Gongsun Zan the most. But family was family, so he let him get away with just about anything. Suddenly, a subordinate burst into the hall, clearly agitated. Sir! Something's happened to Master Gongsun Zan. Gongsun Xiong snapped his head up. The subordinate continued, Master Gongsun Zan led a raid on the Chen family today and got into it with someone over Chen's eldest daughter. He's dead. Gongsun Xiong's eyes narrowed. Who in Tianxian City would dare lay a hand on a Gongsun? He growled, sure, his third son was a good-for-nothing, born on the wrong side of the blanket, but he was still his flesh and blood. He represented the Gongsun family out in the world. Killing him was a slap in the face. Do we know who did it? Gongsun Xiong demanded, his anger flaring. Yes, sir. It was Mu Zhian, from the Mu family. Mu Zhian, the Mu family's only heir. Gongsun Xiong's anger seemed to deflate a bit. Sometimes, just a name could take the edge off, and the Mu family was one of those names. Tell me everything, he said, his voice suddenly calm. The servant recounted the story that had been spreading like wildfire in Tianxian City. By the time he finished, Gongsun Xiong wasn't nearly as enraged as you might expect. Instead, he waved a dismissive hand. That's all. You're dismissed. Behind him, the voluptuous beauty squeezed his shoulders and purred, Master, the Mu family's been riding high for too long. Now they're actually killing Zaner. It's clear they don't respect the Gongsun family. Gongsun Xiong shook his head. You think like a woman, he scoffed. After a pause, he set down his teacup. You know how much power the Mu family wields in Tianxian City, right? The beauty blinked, then nodded slightly. Gongsun Xiong went on, then do you think it would be hard for them to cover up Zaner's murder? If the Gongsun family went looking for answers, it would be like pulling teeth. How could they kill someone in the morning and have the whole city talking about it that afternoon? Do you think the Mu family are dummies, just letting this blow up? The beauty's eyes flickered. So you think someone's framing the Mu family, Gongsun Xiong stated flatly. Maybe it was the Bai family, or the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce, or even some other small-time outfit. Gongsun Xiong added, Mu Zhian might chase skirts, but he isn't stupid. He knows what killing Zaner would mean. And as for this story about Mu Zhian playing White Knight, do you buy it? The beauty shook her head silently. They both knew Mu Zhian's type. He wasn't exactly the champion of the downtrodden. My master sees all, the beauty said, offering a compliment. Gongsun Xiong snorted. Regardless of whether the Mu family's involved, I'm going to squeeze some concessions out of them. Just then, the servant who delivered the bad news hurried back in. Sir, Master Mu is here to see you. He dared show up at the Gongsun residence, just like that. The beauty asked, surprised. The news of Gongsun Zan's murder had barely broken, and the alleged killer was already here, in person. That took guts. Gongsun Xiong considered it for a moment. Show him in, he said. A moment later, Mu Zhian, guided by a servant, entered the hall and greeted the head of the Gongsun family and the beauty behind him. Uncle Gongsun, I apologize for disturbing you so late, Mu Zhian said, adopting a respectful tone. Gongsun Xiong smiled thinly. Nephew Mu, you wouldn't come calling this late without a reason. What's on your mind? No matter what Mu Zhian said, he would make sure the Mu family paid a price. It didn't matter whether Mu Zhian was guilty or not. The important thing was that the public was on Mu Zhian's side, and that was leverage enough. Mu Zhian nodded and glanced at the maids lining the walls. I do have something important to discuss with you, but I'd prefer if we could speak in private. Gongsun Xiong raised an eyebrow and gestured for the servants to leave. You too, he said to the beauty. Once they were alone, Gongsun Xiong looked at Mu Zhian. Please, nephew Mu, sit. His tone was so casual, as if he hadn't heard a thing about what was going on outside. Mu Zhian took a sip of the hot tea. I assume you've heard the rumors, uncle. Gongsun Xiong nodded, his face drawn with grief. I just received the news. I never imagined my good-for-nothing son would die at the Chen family's doorstep. He sighed heavily, looked at Mu Zhian, and said in a grave tone, but I trust you, nephew Mu. You and Zhan'er may not have been close, but the Gongsun and Mu families have always been allies. You're not the kind of person to act without thinking. The performance, the grief, a modern Hollywood star would have been proud. Mu Zhian had to bite back a sarcastic remark. He sighed in agreement. I always felt I met young Master Gongsun Zhan too late. I regret that we never had the chance to become friends. They exchanged a few more pleasantries, and Gongsun Xiong began to angle the conversation toward extracting some concessions. Then, Mu Zhian lowered his voice. Uncle, there are outside forces infiltrating Tianxian City. Gongsun Xiong looked startled. Mu Zhian went on, I did see young Master Gongsun Zhan today, but I didn't kill him. It was a cultivator who came from the outside. Gongsun Xiong shook his head. Nephew Mu, that's the kind of story you tell a toddler, and even they might not buy it. Mu Zhian smiled faintly. I know you don't believe me, but I think you will, once you see him for yourself. Gongsun Xiong frowned. Are you saying there's an outside force that came in and killed Zhan'er? Mu Zhian nodded emphatically. Gongsun Xiong stared into Mu Zhian's eyes for a long moment, then said, Do you have any proof? I would like to invite you to my home tonight. Of course, you'll need to conceal your aura, Mu Zhian said. Then you'll believe what I'm telling you. Chapter 17, The Mentality of the Spectators. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Shepherd family, back at the Mu mansion, Mu Zhian sat in his study, a book in hand, reading by candlelight. Time slipped by. Suddenly, the candle flickered wildly. A cold draft swept in, and the flame died, plunged into darkness. Mu Zhian set down his book, stretched, and said, A midnight visit to the Mu estate isn't exactly your style. He calmly relit the candle and glanced to the side. A man in black stood there, staring at him. Master Mu, the man said in a low voice, you acted too rashly today. Gongsun Zhan's murder was already the talk of the town, and the authorities would be cracking down, making it harder to sneak you out. He was running out of time to hang around in Tianxian City. Mu Zhian sighed. I know, but I lost my temper. Just a moment of weakness, damn it. The man in black studied Mu Zhian, looking at the regret on the young master's face. With things as they are, can you still pull this off? That was his real concern. He didn't give a damn about Gongsun Zhan's abuse, you killing him, or who by Ruashi ended up with. All that mattered was getting you out. Mu Zhian nodded. Okay, but give me 2 or 3 more days. It'll take some time to smooth things over. Fine. The man nodded, eyeing Mu Zhian. You seem pretty confident, Master Mu. Think you can quell this mess in 3 days? Mu Zhian shook his head and smiled. That's not your problem. The man in black scoffed, clearly annoyed by Mu Zhian's recklessness. Then I hope you can handle this and get the beauty out sooner rather than later. With that, the man turned, his robe swirling, and vanished into the night. Silence hung heavy in the study. He's gone. Only when Wei Mengru's voice cut through the silence did Mu Zhian relax. He looked over to see Wei Mengru, in a yellow dress, standing silently in the corner, almost swallowed by the shadows, the candlelight illuminated her flawless face. Her eyebrows were dark, her lips small and cherry red. Her skin was smooth, and a ribbon emphasized her waist, highlighting her curves. Her proportions were perfect, and she wore plain ankle boots. She was every man's dream. Too bad she was a master of the god-refining realm. Even as her master, Mu Zhian couldn't touch her, not yet, if only she weren't so powerful. Mu Zhian sighed inwardly. Still, he was grateful to have such a formidable bodyguard. The man in black, also a god-refining realm cultivator, had been intimidating, but Wei Mengru's presence evened the playing field. After all, she was bigger. Mu Zhian stole glances at Wei Mengru's figure, lost in thought. Had your fill? Wei Mengru asked, her tone icy. If not, could I have a bit longer? Mu Zhian thought, clearing his throat and changing the subject. Where's Gongsun Xiong? Mr. Ren took him for tea in the side hall. He should be back by now, she said. The man in black had made a fatal error from the start. His intel was bad. He didn't know the Mu family had 2 god-refining realm cultivators. From his first, reckless visit, the man's actions had been an open book, and Mu Zhian had been manipulating him all along. Gongsun Xiong didn't overhear us, did he? Of course not. The barrier blocked all sound from the study, Wei Mengru confirmed. After a pause, she added, though he did sense the man in black. Mu Zhian nodded. That's enough. There were barely 10 god-refining realm masters in Tianxian City, and the 3 families knew them all. A powerful outsider lurking in the city would make everyone uneasy. From now on, it didn't matter who killed Gongsun Zan, the priority was getting the man in black out of Tianxian City. The Gongsun family might put Gongsun Zan's death on hold because of the man in black, but what about the people of Tianxian City? Wei Mengru asked. As long as the Gongsun family doesn't care. Mu Zhian put down his teacup, smiling. As for public opinion, it's irrelevant. Just ignore it. Wei Mengru frowned. Tianxian City was abuzz with rumors. Some trashed Gongsun Zan, others praised Mu Zhian, some questioned Mu Zhian's motives, and some just wanted them both dead. If the rumors were left to spread, Mu Zhian would get a reputation as a bad guy. But this time, Mu Zhian had done nothing wrong, at least, that's what Wei Mengru thought. We still need to manage public opinion, but not too much. The narrative will change soon enough, Mu Zhian said. Wei Mengru caught his drift. You want to shift public opinion? The people of Tianxian City aren't idiots. Mu Zhian nodded. Of course not. Everyone's got a brain. But it doesn't matter whether they're smart or not. They don't care about the truth anyway. Wei Mengru was skeptical. Are you sure? Positive. Mu Zhian played with a paper crane on the table. They only care about how juicy the news is, whether it's funny, and whether it's entertaining. No one cares about the truth or how the people involved feel. It's just human nature. Wei Mengru was silent for a moment. Finally, she looked at Mu Zhian and said softly, You really get people. Actually, I'd rather understand you, Mengru. Mu Zhian thought, eyeing her beautiful face and body. What do you need me to do next? Wei Mengru asked. Mu Zhian shook his head. Just relax, drink tea, and chat with me. As for Gongsun Zan, the tide will turn soon enough, he said confidently. How? Wei Mengru asked. Under her gaze, Mu Zhian smiled, being deliberately vague. Just watch it happen. Chapter 18 The Man in Black Robe, NMSL 3K. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The next morning, Bai Ruoshi sat in a chair in the Bai family's side hall, sipping tea. Her white dress emphasized her slender figure, and her presence was undeniably elegant. Beside her, a beautiful woman, resembling Bai Ruoshi but with a few more crow's feet, also held a teacup. Dressed more maturely than her daughter, her figure was curvaceous, and her face possessed a charming beauty. Like a full-blown peony, setting down her cup, she seemed pleased. Turning to Bai Ruoshi, she smiled. Ruoshi, I told you, all it takes is a word from you, and that Mu boy will be tripping over himself to help. Bai Ruoshi shook her head. This has nothing to do with me. Something just happened to Master Mu, so I helped the Bai family out. Rescuing the Bai family was just a coincidence. Mu Zhian's real goal wasn't to save them, but to deflect attention. He shifted the Gongsun family's anger from himself to the man in the black robe. Bai Yuanfeng glanced at her daughter knowingly. Ruoshi, be honest with me. Is there something going on between you and Mu Zhian? Bai Ruoshi glared at her mother, embarrassed, and shook her head. Mom, what are you talking about? Master Mu hasn't done anything. Bai Yuanfeng was surprised. That's odd. He really doesn't have feelings for you. He said I wasn't just a bargaining chip, that I was a person. As she said this, Bai Ruoshi watched her mother's face, a flicker of hope in her eyes, as if seeking some insight. Bai Yuanfeng shook her head, smiling. Ruoshi, men always say things like that. Only a child would believe it. Don't take it seriously. Bai Ruoshi was silent for a moment, then nodded without speaking. Whether Mu Zhian was telling the truth or not, he'd said it, and he'd acted like it. All they'd done was hold hands. Any other man wouldn't have been able to resist from the moment they were alone in the carriage. Mom, the Bai family can breathe easier now, but eventually, the Gongsun family and the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce might still cause trouble. Bai Ruoshi suddenly asked, since the Tongmai pill might not be needed for years, or even a decade, should we still use it as a bargaining chip? She looked at her mother, a trace of hope lingering in her eyes, but Bai Yuanfeng's answer crushed that hope. What are you saying? The Tongmai pill might be useless to us, but we can't let the Mu family have it. If they use it to reach the Void Return Realm, the Bai family will never recover. Bai Yuanfeng picked up her teacup and glanced at her daughter. You'd better marry into the Mu family. Then we'd be in-laws, and things would be much simpler. Bai Ruoshi remained silent, drinking her tea. Bai Yuanfeng eyed her daughter suspiciously. Speaking of which, before I pushed you to marry into the Mu family, you swore you'd rather die. You haven't seemed as opposed to it lately. Bai Ruoshi's eyes flickered slightly. What's the point of objecting, right? That she didn't know if she'd accepted her fate, but the thought of marrying into the Mu family didn't fill her with the same dread as before. By the way, why do you think the Gongsun family and the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce suddenly stopped targeting the Bai family? Bai Yuanfeng suddenly remembered, she'd only heard her daughter say the Bai family was safe for now, but she didn't know why. Bai Ruoshi said, it's related to the raid on Gongsun Zan's house yesterday. Bai Yuanfeng thought for a moment. So, I heard from the servants that Gongsun Zan led people to raid his own house, but Mu Zhian stopped him. Could it be that the Gongsun family and the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce are going after the Mu family instead? But they probably don't have the guts. Bai Yuanfeng looked at her daughter, confused. Bai Ruoshi explained, the Gongsun family, the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce, and even the Mu family have another enemy, the man in black robes. It was him who actually killed Gongsun Zan. Bai Yuanfeng was skeptical. You're saying there's a twist to this? Mu Zhian didn't kill him, someone else did. Bai Ruoshi nodded slightly. Bai Yuanfeng shook her head. Impossible. Even if the people of Tianxian City would believe that, the Gongsun family wouldn't. Just then, a maid rushed in. Madam, miss. What's with all the rush? Bai Yuanfeng glared at her, then, remembering the Bai family's reduced staff, softened her tone. What is it? Why are you so panicked? The maid said, it's about Gongsun Zan. Bai Yuanfeng set down her teacup calmly. I already know about yesterday. No need to repeat it. It's not about yesterday, it's about this morning. I heard the story has changed. Bai Yuanfeng asked immediately, what do you mean, changed? Could it be that her daughter was right, and Mu Zhian wasn't responsible? But regardless of who was responsible, Gongsun Xiong should be taking advantage of the situation. Gongsun Zan wasn't killed by Master Mu. Master Mu was just doing what was right. The real killer was a mysterious black-robed monk. Is that accurate? Bai Yuanfeng asked suspiciously. The maid nodded. People from the Gongsun family are saying it's true. Plus, the eldest daughter from the Chen family's mansion, even the servants there, and the Gongsun family's servants, all say there was a man in black robes. Bai Yuanfeng was stunned, there really was a man in black robes. But why would the Gongsun family help the Mu family by confirming this? Bai Yuanfeng snapped out of it, waved the maid away, and took a sip of tea, lost in thought. Soon after, she got up and left the side hall. She touched up her makeup, added a bit more rouge, and hurried out of the Bai family. Meanwhile, the news of the mysterious black-robed monk killing Gongsun Zan spread throughout Tianxian city that morning. In every inn and tea house, people discussed the identity of the man in black robes. They praised Mu Zhian for standing up for what was right and condemned Gongsun Zan for mistreating women. Then they debated the identity of the man in black robes and what he looked like under the hood. Just as Mu Zhian had predicted, no one cared how Gongsun Zan died, and that morning, as people discussed the man in black robes, a man in black robes slowly descended the stairs from the second floor of an inn. Most of his face was hidden under a black hood as he listened to the noisy chatter. I told you, Master Mu might be a bit of a troublemaker, but he wouldn't do something like that. Like I said yesterday, Master Mu only stopped Gongsun Zan because he couldn't stand it. Master Mu might have had a questionable past, but he's still a good guy. That's the Mu family for you. Any other family would have been arrested by the Gongsun family for revenge. Some people said with emotion. But Master Mu frequents the pleasure houses. He's not a saint. Some people still disliked Mu Zhian and retorted when they saw him praised. Nearby, a burly man, who had started drinking early, laughed. People who do great things don't worry about the small stuff. Master Mu's a stand-up guy. What's wrong with going to the pleasure houses? If one of those girls batted her eyes at you, you'd be all over her. That the men drinking tea laughed, and the inn filled with a happy atmosphere. The man in black robes listened, sneering. Time was tight, but there was no point in rushing. He could wait 2 or 3 days for Mu Zhian, it wouldn't be boring, anyway. Watching the Gongsun family and the Mu family fight it out was entertaining. Then he heard someone say, "Who is that man in black robes? How dare he attack Gongsun Zan?" Anyone who attacks the Gongsun family is either well prepared or doesn't know how powerful they are. I want to know what that man in black robes looks like. As soon as those words were spoken, the chatter died down, and everyone stared at the man in black robes walking down the stairs. Then people whispered. Look at what he's wearing. Black robe, cold demeanor. Could he be the man in black robes the Gongsun family is offering a reward for? That morning, the Gongsun family had offered 1,000 taels of gold for anyone who captured the man in black robes and 1,000 taels for information leading to his location. The man walking down the stairs was pure gold. The man in black robes frowned, sensing the hostile stares and remembering the whispers. He realized what was happening, cursed under his breath, tossed down some coins, and hurried out of the inn without a word. Monks, ready to pounce, followed, but the man in black robes vanished the moment he reached the door. From that day on, no one saw a man in black robes in Tianxian city again. Chapter 19, Master Gongsun is really a genius at pretending to be confused. 3K. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At that moment, the guy in the black robe was perched on the roof of some mansion, eyes fixed on the street below. A slow burn of irritation was rising up in him. He'd planned to chill out, watch the Mu and Gongsun families tear each other apart like dogs fighting over a bone. But nope, things had to get complicated, and now he was the fall guy for Gongsun Zan's murder. To top it off, the Gongsun family was backing up the Mu family on this whole mess, which was the most infuriating part. Mu Zhian clearly iced Gongsun's third son, so why the hell would the Gongsun set aside old grudges and play nice? The guy in black robe's eyes flickered as he thought it over. When two enemies suddenly become buddies, there's gotta be one reason. They've got a common enemy, and who would that be? Pretty obvious, right? The black-robed guy's face darkened. That punk played me. This was bad news. If the Gongsun and Mu families teamed up, he could be in a world of hurt. Just then, he spotted something out of the corner of his eye near a courtyard's back door. The curvy, good-looking woman slipped out quietly. A guy was right behind her, hands on her hips. They were practically glued together, whispering sweet nothings. Bai Yuanfeng, the man in black robe watched the scene. After a moment of hesitation, a weird smile spread across his face. Well, isn't the young lady still trying to decide if she wants to run away from home? Early that morning, Mu Zhian was leaning against his desk, holding the paper crane that had just flown in through the window. He looked at the elegant handwriting, but just shook his head and sighed. Ever since he'd first replied to the paper crane's owner a few days back, he'd been getting a reply pretty much every day, either that same day or first thing the next morning. The letters were always the same. Just variations on a theme of "I'm so sick of my family holding me back, I want to run away. And I've had it. No matter what the old folks say, I'm getting out of here to have some fun." But whenever Mu Zhian asked, "Where are you right now?" the answer was always, "Haven't left yet." Mu Zhian just rolled his eyes. This would be a talk the talk but can't walk the walk situation. Whatever, he'd finally decided he was just gonna play the part of an advice columnist. Mu Zhian didn't mind writing back, it killed time. Anyway, he still didn't know who was sending these, or where they were coming from. He folded the paper crane and tossed it out the window. Then, on a sudden impulse, he turned to Wei Mengru and asked, "Hey, Sister Mengru, you got any idea where this paper crane heads off to every time?" The tall, icy beauty was standing quietly in the shadows of the study. Her dark hair cascaded down her back, with a strand hanging across her face, giving her a lazy vibe. She looked up in the direction the paper crane had flown and shook her head slightly. "Just from the direction? No way to tell. So, next time we're free, how about we take a stroll and follow the crane to see where it ends up?" Mu Zhian suggested. "Why don't you just say you want me to find out where the paper crane's coming from? Why beat around the bush?" Wei Mengru asked, her voice cool. Mu Zhian shook his head. "It's not the same thing. Investigating the paper crane's just a side quest. We'd just be taking a walk, chatting, building our master-servant bond, you know." Wei Mengru was silent for a long moment, then said softly, "We'll see if we get a chance." She seemed to want to move on, and changed the subject. "Your hunch was right. There's been a change in your rep since this morning. A lot of people are looking at you differently now. They figured you were just a horny dude, but now they think you've got some principles." Wei Mengru said. "You could use this chance to really change the way people in Tianxian City see you." She was almost emotional, and a little surprised. Mu Zhian had done so many questionable things in the past, nothing too wild, but he had a bad rep. But then he just stopped Gongsun Zan from abusing the Chen family's eldest daughter. All that bad reputation vanished, and a brand new image started to build up. People used to avoid Mu Zhian on the street. Now, when they saw him, they'd whisper about what he did and say it was cool. If he kept it up and did some good deeds, maybe he could ditch the spoiled brat label. Mu Zhian shook his head. "No need to overdo it. I'm not trying to make anyone change their mind about me." Wei Mengru raised an eyebrow. "Wouldn't it be good to get people to like you and clean up your image?" "Good, but not totally good," Mu Zhian said, as if quoting some wise old saying. Wei Mengru just looked at him, confused. "People love to put folks on a pedestal," Mu Zhian explained. "But there aren't any saints out there. People might think you're great now, worship you, give you a thumbs up when they see you. But the second they find out you screwed up, even on something small, they'll rip off the mask and come at you. Because once you're a public figure, every single flaw gets magnified 10, even 100 times. I hate compliments, and I don't want people calling me some kind of hero." He was just a simple guy, chasing after Wei Mengru and Bai Ruoshi. Building some great reputation was pointless. Right now, he looked good, but he couldn't guarantee that some minor thing wouldn't flip the switch and make him the bad guy again. Like you, Sister Mengru. Let's say you suddenly got named the hottest woman in Tianxian City, the biggest knockout around, everyone loves you. Then, boom, someone says you're sleeping with your boss. Doesn't matter if it's true or not, the gossip starts flying. Wei Mengru looked down, thinking about what Mu Zhian was saying. That's what you said yesterday, right? People just want to be entertained, they don't care about the truth. Mu Zhian smiled and nodded. The Gongsun family said today that the man in black killed Gongsun Zan, not you. Wei Mengru said suddenly. Yeah, I know. Mu Zhian nodded. Wei Mengru opened her mouth, like she wanted to say something, but she hesitated. Mu Zhian looked at the cool beauty and smiled. Wanna know why the Gongsuns are helping me out, right? Wei Mengru paused, then said aha softly. Actually, Gongsun Xiong's just helping himself. Mu Zhian explained. The Gongsun family wouldn't be where they are without him. Gongsun Xiong's sharp. Smart people know how to play dumb. Gongsun Xiong probably knew all along that Mu Zhian was behind his son's death, but he played dumb, pretending he got it wrong. In the end, money's nothing compared to the Gongsun family's future. The guy in black robe was the real enemy. Just then, Wei Mengru cut off her words, holding her breath and hiding in the corner by the bookshelf. Before Mu Zhian could ask what was up, he felt a crazy wave of murderous intent coming from the window. Then, a guy in plain clothes and a bamboo hat walked into the study. Based on his height, build, and the cold vibe he gave off, it wasn't hard to figure out this was the black-robed guy who wanted you. No black robe? Mu Zhian almost laughed out loud. He cleared his throat and said seriously, why are you here so early? We agreed I'd get 3 days to handle things with the Gongsun family. Master Mu, you really dumped this one on me. I'm stuck holding the bag, and you're just chilling. The man in black robe looked up, and his eyes under the bamboo hat were burning. Mu Zhian didn't flinch. He just stared back at the man calmly. The guy was clearly pissed, but he hadn't attacked. That meant Yi was important to him. Mu Zhian realized. He quickly put on a friendly smile and said, relax, I was hoping for a better solution, but this is the fastest way to fix this mess. You threw all the blame on me. You call that a solution? The man in black robe glared at Mu Zhian. If Mu Zhian didn't have a good explanation, he might just snap. You're an outsider, right? Why care what people in Tianxian City think? Mu Zhian asked with a smile. We're working together. I'm handing over Yi, so you can take a little heat for me, right? The man in black robe scoffed, his eyes flickering. He didn't say anything. Mu Zhian was right, he didn't care about the blame, but still, it pissed him off. He had to rely on Mu Zhian, and now he was stuck holding the bag. When are you taking Yi to Dragon's Head Forest? The man in black robe asked. Mu Zhian thought for a second. There are a lot more patrols in town lately. Let's make it 2 days from now. The man in black robe softened a little. Since we're partners and all, I'll give you some info. Where does he get all this info? Mu Zhian thought, looking at the man in black robe and waiting for him to spill. The Bai and Gongsun families aren't enemies. The man in black robe revealed. Mu Zhian blinked, caught off guard. The Bai family had been getting crushed by the Gongsun family and the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce, almost to the point of going under. And now this guy was telling him they weren't enemies. The Bai family leader's wife just went to the Gongsun residence. The man in black robe added. That one sentence carried a ton of weight. It took Mu Zhian a long time to process it. Then, he got a strange look on his face. A wild guess popped into his head. Chapter 20. Don't look down on young people because they are poor. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. A crazy idea popped into Mu Zhian's head. He knew it was a long shot, but something in his gut told him it might be true. If the guy in black wasn't lying, then what was Bai Yuanfeng doing at the Gongsun family's place? Only two things made sense. Either Bai Yuanfeng was groveling, begging the Gongsuns to go easy on the Bai family, but that seemed really unlikely. The other possibility, Bai Ruoxi's dad got jumped on his way back to town a few days back. You don't just seriously wound a refining spirit realm powerhouse without some serious planning. So, who leaked his location? And if Tongmai pills were the key to saving the Bai family, why was Bai Yuanfeng so dead set against using them, preferring to sell off his own daughter? Was this beauty really that clueless? Doubtful. The guy in black watched Mu Zhian, who seemed lost in thought, and smirked. Mr. Mu, you're a smart guy. You know what you gotta do, right? Mu Zhian snapped back to reality and nodded. Heh heh heh, thanks for the intel. Heh heh heh. The black-robed man was taken aback. Just messing around, don't sweat it. I just wanted to see what it felt like. Mu Zhian laughed. He figured all villains laughed like that, but guess he was wrong. Confused, the black-robed man gave Mu Zhian a cold look and turned to leave. Then, he stopped dead, staring at the paper crane on the table, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes for the first time, but he quickly regained his composure, spun around, and dissolved into black mist, vanishing from the study. Moments later, Wei Mengru materialized from the shadows, dropping all pretense of stealth. She glanced out the window and whispered, he reacted to the paper crane. He might know where it came from. Mu Zhian looked surprised. Could that mean the guy in black was somehow connected to the family who owned the paper crane? He'd sent people to dig into the black-robed man's background 2 days ago, but trying to track down some shadowy outsider group was proving impossible, but now there was a new lead. Maybe it was worth a shot. Mu Zhian thought for a moment and said, okay, tomorrow have someone follow the paper crane and see where it flies to. He'd been chatting with the owner of the paper crane every day, felt like he was online dating or something. Just a little advance recon to see what his online buddy looked like. After sorting everything out, Mu Zhian looked up at Wei Mengru. Mengru, I'm skipping practice today. I'm heading out. Wei Mengru replied casually, you don't have to announce it to me. It wouldn't shock me if you quit altogether one of these days. Still, Mu Zhian didn't detect any annoyance or disappointment in her eyes. The maid was clearly pleased with his recent dedication, and Mu Zhian was pretty happy himself. He'd been practicing hard both to get stronger and to butter up Wei Mengru. The method might be a little cheesy, but it seemed to work, like those corny pickup lines you see online. They might make you cringe, but some girls eat that stuff up. After getting the carriage ready, Mu Zhian leaned back and let it take him towards the Bai residence. Soon, Mu Zhian pulled back the curtain and spotted a mansion in the distance, the Bai estate. He climbed out of the carriage to find 2 servants standing guard. They looked at each other, surprised, and asked, Mr. Mu, what brings you to the Bai residence? That everyone in Tianxian City knew Mu Zhian, so the 2 servants recognized him instantly. I need to see Ruoshi. Is she here? Mu Zhian asked. One of the servants nodded, looking slightly embarrassed. Yes, she's here. But the young lady might be a little busy right now. Mu Zhian raised an eyebrow and was about to ask what was going on. Just then, he heard the faint sounds of a man and woman arguing coming from inside the mansion, followed by Yi Yu's voice. Miss Bai, if you're dead set on calling off the engagement, I can't stop you. But even though I'm not rich, I'm an honorable man. Today, I'm ending this engagement. Mu Zhian was stunned. Was he walking into a breakup scene? He thought about barging in for a look, but the guards blocked his path. Sorry, Mr. Mu, the young lady has ordered no one to enter. Mu Zhian pulled out a couple of silver coins from his pocket, pressed them into the guard's hands, and grinned. Just do me a solid. If I get thrown out on my butt, I won't complain, deal? The 2 guards looked flustered. Mr. Mu, don't make this harder than it has to be. If something goes wrong, we'll catch the blame. Mu Zhian pulled out 4 more silver coins and stuffed them into their hands. Mr. Mu, you need anything, just say the word. We got your back. Mu Zhian smiled, nodded, then pushed open the gates and walked inside. Sure enough, Yi Yu and Bai Ruoshi were standing in the courtyard, facing each other. Yi Yu was clearly fuming, but he clenched his fists, trying to hold it together. Bai Ruoshi, with her slender waist and stunning looks, stared at Yi Yu blankly. Her white dress hugged her curves as she silently handed Yi Yu the divorce papers. Mr. Yi, I don't want any bad blood between us, but I just can't go through with this. Bai Ruoshi said quietly. Yi Yu clenched his fists, eyes burning, but forced himself to stay calm. Miss Bai, never judge a book by its cover. You'll regret this one day. He was convinced Bai Ruoshi was dumping him because she had her sights set on Mu Zhian, the rich kid, but he'd make her regret this day. One way or another, with his talent, he'd be swimming in more money than the muse before long. Bai Ruoshi frowned slightly but remained silent. Suddenly, loud applause echoed from the entrance. Never judge a book by its cover. Mr. Yi, you certainly have faith in your abilities. Yi Yu whirled around to see Mu Zhian standing at the gate, clapping. His tone sounded like sincere admiration. Mu Zhian. Yi Yu narrowed his eyes, watching Mu Zhian saunter towards them.